Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome along to Sportsbet TV. As always, this is Paul Alster with your racing tips for the coming weekend and looking at some very interesting racing across Britain and Ireland for Saturday and Sunday. Now, as always, before I forget, I must remind you, if you haven't already done so, to press the subscribe button just at the bottom of this screen if you haven't already done so, and also press on the bell icon so you'll be kept informed of any new bulletins that come along from me here at Sportsbet. Well, there's a lot to get through this weekend. Let's very quickly just say a few words about last weekend where things didn't go our way, I'm afraid. A Strong Economy, well, he ran okay in the Eider Chase, but two shuddering mistakes meant that in the end he finished sixth in the Eider Chase. Al Safari ran a shocker over in Ireland. We're always likely to have some that don't run beyond their odds, and he was one. And indeed, the market signals when he drifted from 10 to 20 to 1 suggested that all was not well even before the race, and he ran poorly. Now, the other selection last Saturday was Southfield Stone at Kempton. He was running a good race and he was still in touch, and I was hopeful that he was going to get very much involved when he took what proved to be a fatal fall at the fourth last fence. Now, this was really shocking, and our commiserations go out to Paul Nicholls and the team for a horse who really has been a standard bearer in many respects in handicap company over the last few seasons. And I'm just so sorry for them and for the owners and the lass that's been looking after the horse. So really, really sad incident. We just hate to see that happen. Anybody, never mind who bets on horses, that cares about the sport, but people like me that have bred them as well, you know that it's an absolutely awful experience. Despite that, overall on the month of February, we finished £56 in profit to the recommended stake. So that's very good. And that is the fifth successive month that we have shown a profit. And I think there's very few tipping services and tipsters can claim that, especially when we're not, for the most part, tipping short prices. We're tipping horses that are double figure odds very often, and we're doing our best to look for each way prices and horses that are going to give you a shout of big odds. Now, before I come to this weekend's tips, I just want to say a few words about the publicity that surrounded racing over the last week. And of course, it all started with that dreadful image of Gordon Elliott sitting on the dead horse on his gallops. Now, whatever anybody says, and I've read lots of articles about it, and he's come in quite rightly for some very, very harsh criticism. I find it unforgivable. I know Ted Walsh wrote a piece in the Racing Post, in some ways trying to mitigate for him as this as being a one-off, but I found it horribly distasteful. I found his explanation completely unbelievable, and I think it only made things worse. And I'm very much hoping that the Irish authorities come down on him very, very hard. It was an awful thing. It's brought the sport into disrepute. And of course, after that, we had Rob James's video that's been released showing him doing something similar, again, rubbing salt into the wound. And he also deserves to be very severely dealt with. I'm very pleased to see that the British Horse Racing Authority have already banned Gordon Elliott from having runners at the Cheltenham Festival. And I'm hoping that the Irish authorities make an example of him and prove that this behaviour is intolerable, and that anybody that behaves in such a way to these wonderful creatures that give so much pleasure to their owners and the staff that work with them and the people that follow them and have a bet, that anybody that does what Gordon Elliott did deserves to be dealt with in the most severe way. I'd like to see him banned. Not everybody will agree with me, and you may have your thoughts on that, but I'd like to see him banned at least for a year. And I'm very pleased to have seen that Cheveley Park Stud have taken their horses away from him, that Betfair have finished their sponsorship with him. And I was very disappointed to see that Michael O'Leary of Ryanair and the Jigginstown Stud have said, well, it's one of those things that we all make mistakes. I think that says more about Michael O'Leary than possibly it does about the situation with Gordon Elliott. So I just wanted to make a point that from those of us that love horses and love racing, it was an awful moment. And it's been a very tough week. And let's hope that such scenes are never again repeated. I'll move on and take you to the tips, hopefully a little bit more upbeat, because we have 4 recommendations for this weekend. We're tipping at Newbury, also at Kelso and at Leopardstown on Sunday. Now, we'll start with Newbury in the 1:15 race, which is a 3¼ mile veterans handicap chase. Now, the significant thing this weekend is that after the whole winter of horses ploughing through muddy ground, the good weather means that we've got pretty good ground everywhere. And this is going to make a lot of the form turn around. So I think we're going to see horses that have been doing well in the mud, possibly starting to find it life becoming a little tougher as they're moving faster and jumping at higher speeds over the fences. So I think there's room for value to be found in some of the tips. And Newbury 1:15, the veterans handicap chase over 3¼ miles on good ground. Interesting to see Sir Riven, a likely favourite. He was there to see you at midnight, who of course won for us when recommended at 20-1 at Sandown not so very long ago. Present Man, after a break, I think will go well for Paul Nicholls and Brian E. Frost. And I think Chantou Village under Millie Wanacott is a good shout too, with her £7 claim coming in handy. But the horse I like here is Valadom, who's trained by Richard Hobson and is the mount of Paul O'Brien. Now, this is a lovely old 12-year-old grey. He's a 6-time winner, and he won by 28 lengths at Catterick over 3 miles 1 furlong in January. That was on softish ground, but he goes very well on a sound surface, as he showed when winning over 2½ miles on good ground at Newcastle in November. Now, he's gone up £4 since that success, but this is a horse who likes to run from the front and bounce off fast ground, and he's normally a good jumper. So I think he's going to go out there in front and just try and keep grinding away and get away from them. And the odds on offer at the time of this recording, as of Friday lunchtime, best price 9-1 each way with Bet365. And I think that's a decent price. As always, remember to bet with a bookmaker who's going to pay you the SP if it proves to be bigger than the price you take. It can make such a difference on your profit and loss at the end of the season, I promise you. So Valadom it is for me to run a big one for Paul O'Brien and Richard Hobson in the 1:15 race at Newbury on Saturday. Now, my second selection is also at Newbury in the following race there, the 1:50, which is the Bet Victor Greatwood Gold Cup Handicap Chase over 2½ miles. Always a very good race. Paul Nicholls has won this 5 times in the last 8 years. So you'd have to say that his horses have to be respected. And he has the 2 top weights, Capeland and Grand Sancy, with the latter likely to start favourite, a very classy novice, although this will be quite a challenge, I think, taking on seasoned handicappers. Emma Lavelle has Killer Clown, who I thought won really well at Kempton. He's gone up in the weights, but he's going the right way. And David Pipe's Umbragado has won at Wetherby, and Fontwell, a horse we've tipped in the past this season. But as of this far, he appears to be better on a soft surface. So I'm not prepared to support him, although he could prove me wrong on this better ground. Now, the horse I fancy here is called Born Survivor. That's me. Born Survivor. Dan Skelton trains, and the excellent Bridget Andrews will be on board. Now, this is a horse who has a touch of class about him. He's a dual listed handicap chase winner in November 2018 and April 2019 at the Scottish National fixture, both times winning those good races on good ground. He doesn't really show his very best on a soft surface. He's a horse who's undergone wind surgery. Last term, he ran 3 very good races. He just had 3 outings. And in 2 of them, he was up against high-class performers like Top Notch and Frodon. So he's really mixed it with good horses, running off 150. This year, he's had 4 runs. He wasn't ready first time out. And in the other 3 runs, well, he's been running over the wrong trip and on the wrong ground. He's been running over 2 miles on soft ground. Now he's come down the weights, and he's come down £12 to 138. And I think that's a very attractive mark now that he's coming back to his optimum trip of 2½ miles and he's got the good ground that he so desperately needs to show his best form. Now, I've already noted since the time I wrote up my notes an hour or two ago that the 22 to 1 that was available has gone. It was available with a couple of firms like 10Bet and Mansion Bet and others. And he's now generally 20 to 1 top price, and some are going 16. And I can see a gamble starting to develop on Born Survivor. So 20 to 1, I think each way for 4 places is a great bet for Born Survivor now that he has conditions very much in his favour. And that is at Newbury in the 150 on Saturday. Now, the third selection is at Kelso, where we have the More Battle Hurdle, which is a handicap hurdle worth £75,000, and it's over 2 miles on good to soft ground. And I think all the money is probably going to be for the Irish raider, the Shunter, who was around a 5 to 2 chance last time I looked. He won the Great Wood handicap hurdle at the Cheltenham meeting in November, and then was a cracking third over fences to A Wave of the Sea, the horse that won for us at 16 to 1 that day at Leopardstown not so very long ago over fences. But I don't think at 5 to 2 in this hot handicap hurdle, he represents a great deal of value. Anne Hamilton does very well at the track. She's a great trainer, is Anne Hamilton. Doesn't have too many horses, many of them homebred, but she does terrifically well. And she has Tommy's Oscar, who's a very progressive young horse, and she actually won this race with Runswick Royal a few seasons ago. So I very much respect the chance of Tommy's Oscar. And then a few weeks ago at Musselburgh, Christopher Wood beat Wada Rev in the Scottish County Hurdle, and they lock horns once again. And on the revised terms, there isn't a great deal between them. But I'm coming back to a horse I tipped a couple of weeks ago. Night Edition is trained by David Pipe and is the mount of Tom Scudamore. Now, I have to admit, he disappointed us in the Betfair Trophy at Newbury a couple of weeks ago. I was really expecting him to run well, but in the end, he never got into it, finishing 15th of 23 behind Soaring Glory. Now, having hated the heavy ground on his seasonal reappearance at Ascot, this horse ran such a good race at Cheltenham. I can't get that out of my mind. That second in the Fred Winter behind Aramax up a mark of 133, having previously won at Ludlow and finished second in a Grade 2 at Cheltenham the time before. He's gone down since that run at Newbury. He'd been dropped £4 to 129. Now, the thing that has persuaded me to give him another chance is this. And when you're tipping horses, you're not just looking at the bare form. You're trying to get into the mind of the trainer and understand why horses are running at a certain place and in a certain race. So let me give you my theory about Night Edition, and you can choose to disagree or agree with me. As I say, he's down to 129, and this horse holds an entry in the Martin Pipe hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival. He's got no chance of running in that unless he picks up a £5 penalty for a win before then. So I think the fact that David Pipe, the son of the aforementioned great Martin Pipe, has a horse here that I feel he really does want to run in the race named after his father at the Cheltenham Festival. He's sending this horse on its own all the way from Devon to Kelso, which is a mammoth round trip. I think that the tip should be taken. I'm sure he could have found other races, or he could have waited to try and get into something else. But I think that in his mind, he wants to try and pick up the £5 penalty to take the horse up to 134 and give him an outside chance of making the cut for the Martin Pipe at the Cheltenham Festival, a race named after David's father. And with Tom Scudamore keeping the ride and on board, I think the horse is very, very interesting. And I'm prepared to give him another chance and just accept that maybe he had an off day at Newbury. It's up to you whether you choose to go in with me or not. But 22 to 1 each way is available at the time of this recording for 4 places, and that is with Bet Victor and Boyle Sports. So that is Night Edition in the 3:15 at Kelso, the More Battle Hurdle. And then I come on to my final selection, which in a way I was hoping wasn't going to run on Sunday. To be honest, if it's declared a late non-runner, I won't be too upset. I'm looking at Leopardstown in the 450, which is the valuable 2 mile 5 furlong TRI equestrian handicap chase. Now, very often I'm looking for the prices. the good each way prices to give us a sporting chance. But sometimes value comes at shorter prices than you'd probably choose to back each way. Now, there's a horse I've been looking at very closely of late and was looking forward to recommending him to you for the Cheltenham Festival in one of the big handicap chase. In fact, the Paddy Power Plate handicap chase, I think it's on the Thursday of the meeting, is the race I was convinced this horse was going to run in. He may well still do that, but Live, Love, Laugh is the name of the horse, trained by Willie Mullins and the mount of Paul Townend. And he was entered at Leopardstown on Sunday, and I've just seen the declarations, and he's declared to run. Now, question is, have they decided to target this race and then maybe wait until Aintree and Punchestown? Or are they going to go for this race and maybe try and double up at Cheltenham? Well, I think they're going to run here on Sunday and then possibly go to Aintree or Punchestown, because Live, Love, Laugh has made 5 previous visits to the Cheltenham Festival and hasn't won, even though he's run a few good races amongst those 5. Now, while he's only 1 from 17 in his career over fences, he's run so many good races in big handicaps, and essentially he's a horse who is suited by decent ground. So they've kept him out of action, rested him throughout the winter since he ran 3rd of 22 to Off You Go. That was on his comeback over course and distance. That was last month when there was just a bit of a window of decent weather and the ground dried out. That was an excellent run. He's gone up £2. And I think the fact that they're going to run him in what is a pretty valuable prize for the great Willie Mullins, who farms these big handicaps, of course, in Ireland, is significant. Now, the horse at the time of recording is favourite, with the only firm that have gone up early, and that is William Hills, and they put him in at 100 to 30. Now, I'm prepared to bet win on Live, Love, Laugh if he does run on Sunday. I'm still wondering if maybe they might take him out, but if he does run, I think the tip should be taken, and I think 100 to 30, or I think potentially bigger odds nearer to 4 to 1 might be available on the day for Live, Love, Laugh, and that's at Leopardstown in the 450. So here's my 4th and final recommendation this weekend. Some nice variety of prices there, so you can pick and choose if you wish. Let's hope they all run well. Let's hope they all come back safely. And let's hope racing doesn't shoot itself in the foot again before or during the Cheltenham Festival, because the sport has taken an absolute hammering this last week. And let's hope the few rotten apples aren't allowed to spoil the barrel. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. Be well. And this is Paul Alster signing off, and looking forward to you joining me next week for the last bulletin prior to the Cheltenham Festival. Bye-bye for now.